Cuba. The name conjures images of classic cars gleaming in the Caribbean sun, vibrant streets, and a place where time seems to pause. Yet Cuba is more than a relic. It's a living, resilient nation, shaped by history and hardship, but alive with music, laughter, and spirit. This is a journey to discover the heart of an island the world never forgets. Cuba is a land of beautiful, jarring contradictions. Grand colonial palaces stand beside crumbling buildings. Pristine beaches and lush mountains contrast with daily hardships. The spirit of community is strong, yet there's a yearning for opportunity. Cubans find joy in adversity, music in the streets, and resilience in paradox. To understand Cuba is to embrace its complexity and the beauty in its imperfections. To walk through Cuba is to walk through living history. The past is not confined to museums or history books here. It is etched into the cobblestone streets, the walls of colonial fortresses, and the faces of the people. Every corner seems to tell a story. In Old Havana, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, the Spanish colonial legacy is impossible to ignore. Grand plazas, ornate cathedrals, and iron-wrought balconies speak of a time when the city was a jewel of the Spanish Empire, a vital hub for trade between the old world and the new. You can almost hear the echoes of merchants, pirates, and governors who once walked these same streets. The fight for independence is another layer of history that is deeply embedded in the national consciousness. Figures like José Martí are more than just historical names. They are national heroes whose poetry and ideals continue to inspire. Monuments to the wars of independence are scattered across the island, reminders of the long and bloody struggle to break free from Spanish rule. This revolutionary spirit did not end in the 19th century. It became a defining characteristic of the Cuban identity, setting the stage for the dramatic events that would unfold in the middle of the 20th century, a turning point that would change Cuba forever. Then came the Revolution of 1959. This event is the central pillar of modern Cuban history. It is the moment that redefined the nation's identity and set it on a collision course with the United States. The images of Fidel Castro, Che Guevara, and the bearded rebels descending from the Sierra Maestra Mountains are seared into the global imagination. The legacy of the revolution is everywhere. It is in the political slogans painted on walls, in the names of schools and hospitals, and in the very structure of society. For some, it represents liberation and social justice. For others, it signifies oppression and economic ruin. It is a history that is still being debated and lived every single day. Understanding Cuba requires an appreciation for these layers of history. They are not separate chapters in a book, but interconnected threads that create a complex and vibrant tapestry. The colonial past informs the revolutionary present. The fight for independence echoes in the country's modern-day assertions of sovereignty. To truly see Cuba, you must see how these different eras coexist and interact. They influence the art, the music, the politics, and the way people think about their place in the world. This journey is a chance to listen to those echoes and understand how the past continues to shape the island's present and future. This is not a definitive guide to Cuba. Such a thing is impossible. Instead, this is an invitation to look, to listen, and to understand. Set aside your preconceptions and approach this fascinating country with an open mind and a curious heart. In this brief journey, we hope to offer a window into the soul of the island. Let us open our eyes and hearts to the magic, the mystery, and the reality of Cuba. When Columbus first saw Cuba in 1492, he called it the most beautiful land ever seen. Spain quickly claimed the island, transforming Havana into a gateway to the New World. Colonial cities rose, built on the labor of the indigenous Taino, who suffered under conquest and disease. Cuba's rich land and diverse people became the prized pearl of the Antilles. But beneath its beauty, deep tension simmered. As Cuba's indigenous population dwindled, Spanish colonizers turned to enslaved Africans to fuel their plantations. This brutal system shaped Cuba's economy and left a deep scar on its society. Enslaved people endured horrific conditions, yet preserved their African traditions, creating a vibrant Afro-Cuban culture. The legacy of slavery cast a long shadow, dividing Cuban society by race and class, a legacy that endures today. By the mid-19th century, Cubans longed for independence from Spain. The Criollo elite, frustrated by heavy taxes and exclusion from power, fueled a new Cuban identity. In 1868, Carlos Manuel de Céspedes freed his enslaved workers and declared independence, igniting the 10 Years' War. Rebels like Antonio Maceo fought bravely, but after a decade of war, independence was not won. Yet the struggle forged a powerful Cuban identity and set the stage for future freedom. In 1898, the explosion of the USS Maine in Havana led the US to declare war on Spain, ending Cuba's long struggle for independence. But true freedom slipped away, as the US imposed military occupation and the Platt Amendment, controlling Cuba's destiny. American corporations dominated the economy, while most Cubans remained poor, setting the stage for future revolution. In 1952, Fulgencio Batista seized power in Cuba, deepening poverty and corruption. Outraged, young Fidel Castro led a failed attack on the Moncada barracks, was imprisoned, then exiled. In Mexico, he met Che Guevara. With a handful of rebels, they landed in Cuba's Sierra Maestra Mountains, launching a guerrilla campaign that would ignite a revolution and inspire hope among the oppressed. By late 1958, the tide had turned decisively against Fulgencio Batista. His army was demoralized, and his government was losing its grip on the country. The rebel forces, led by charismatic commanders like Che Guevara and Camilo Cienfuegos, launched a final offensive, sweeping down from the mountains. Guevara's column achieved a pivotal victory in the city of Santa Clara, derailing an armored train full of government troops and effectively cutting the island in two. Faced with the collapse of his military and growing popular unrest in the cities, Batista knew his time was up. On New Year's Day 1959, he fled Cuba, taking with him a vast personal fortune and leaving the country in the hands of the victorious revolutionaries. On January 8, 1959, Fidel Castro entered Havana in triumph. He was greeted by ecstatic crowds, millions of Cubans who saw him as a savior who had liberated their nation from a corrupt tyrant. The atmosphere was one of euphoric celebration and boundless optimism. For the first time in its history, it seemed Cuba was truly the master of its own destiny. Castro and his fellow revolutionaries promised a new era of social justice, national sovereignty, and honesty in government. They spoke of a humanistic revolution, not a communist one, and initially enjoyed widespread support, both within Cuba and internationally, including from many in the United States who were glad to see the back of the Batista regime. The new government moved quickly to implement radical changes. One of its first and most significant acts was the Agrarian Reform Law, which broke up huge landholdings, including those owned by American companies, and redistributed the land to rural peasants and cooperatives. The government nationalized key industries, such as telecommunications and energy. It launched a massive literacy campaign, sending young volunteers into the countryside to teach millions to read and write. It also began to build a system of free universal health care. These programs were incredibly popular with the poor majority, who saw their lives improving dramatically, but they deeply alarmed the old elite and the US government. These radical reforms set Cuba on a collision course with the United States. The expropriation of American-owned property without adequate compensation angered Washington. As Castro consolidated power, he also began to silence dissent. Opponents of the regime were arrested, newspapers critical of the government were shut down, and show trials of former Batista officials were held, many ending in executions. The initial promise of a democratic Cuba began to fade, replaced by an increasingly authoritarian, single-party state led by Fidel. Cuba's turn towards socialism and its growing alignment with the Soviet Union would soon transform the island from a U. In the early 1960s, the US saw Castro's Cuba as a threat, fearing Soviet influence just 90 miles from Florida. The CIA trained Cuban exiles for an invasion, but the Bay of Pigs was a disaster, strengthening Castro's rule. The Soviets responded by secretly placing nuclear missiles in Cuba. The world stood on the brink of nuclear war for 13 days. A secret deal ended the crisis, but Cuba remained a Soviet ally, and US embargoes endured. Following the Cuban Missile Crisis, Cuba's relationship with the Soviet Union was solidified. The island became a key member of the Eastern Bloc, a tropical outpost of communism in the Western Hemisphere. For the next 3 decades, the Cuban economy was almost entirely dependent on Soviet aid. The USSR bought Cuban sugar at artificially high prices and sold Cuba oil at a steep discount. This massive subsidy, estimated to be worth billions of dollars a year, propped up the Cuban system. It allowed the government to maintain and expand its ambitious social programs, providing every citizen with free healthcare, free education from primary school through university, and a ration book that guaranteed a basic supply of subsidized food. This period, from the 1960s to the late 1980s, brought a level of stability and social progress that was unprecedented in Cuban history. The literacy rate soared to over 99%. Infant mortality rates dropped to levels comparable with developed nations. Life expectancy increased dramatically. These achievements became a source of immense national pride and a powerful propaganda tool for the revolution, showcasing the supposed benefits of the socialist model. However, this progress came at a cost. The Cuban economy became inefficient and unproductive, a monoculture dependent on sugar and Soviet largesse. There was little incentive for innovation, and chronic shortages of consumer goods became a normal part of daily life. On the international stage, Cuba punched well above its weight. With Soviet backing, Fidel Castro positioned himself as a leader of the non-aligned movement, a champion of anti-colonial and anti-imperialist struggles across the developing world. Cuba sent doctors, teachers, and engineers to assist other poor nations. More controversially, it also sent tens of thousands of soldiers. Cuban troops played a decisive role in conflicts in Africa, most notably in Angola, where they helped to defeat the forces of apartheid-era South Africa. This internationalist foreign policy was a core part of the revolutionary identity, but it also drained the country's resources and cost thousands of Cuban lives, a sacrifice for ideological goals abroad. Despite the social gains, life under the one-party state was highly restrictive. The government controlled all media, and any form of political dissent was swiftly suppressed. The state security apparatus was pervasive, and neighborhood watch groups known as Committees for the Defense of the Revolution monitored the activities of citizens. Artistic and intellectual freedom was severely curtailed. For many Cubans, the trade-off was clear. They had gained social security, but had lost personal and political freedom. This paternalistic system, funded by a distant superpower, created a society that was both protected and suffocated, a fragile stability that was about to be shattered by events thousands of miles away. In 1991, the unthinkable happened. The Soviet Union collapsed. For Cuba, this was a cataclysmic event. The economic lifeline that had supported the island for 30 years was severed overnight. Soviet subsidies vanished. Shipments of cheap oil, food, and machinery stopped. Cuba lost its primary trading partner, which had accounted for over 80% of its foreign trade. The Cuban economy went into freefall, contracting by more than a third in just a few years. The government declared a special period in a time of peace, an era of extreme austerity and hardship that would test the resilience of the Cuban people and the revolution itself to their absolute limits. Life during the special period was a daily struggle for survival. Power outages, known as apagones, lasted for 12 to 16 hours a day, plunging cities into darkness. Without fuel for tractors or transport, agriculture collapsed. Food became incredibly scarce, and the government's ration system was reduced to near starvation levels. People lost significant amounts of weight, and diseases related to malnutrition began to appear. Public transportation ground to a halt. The streets filled with bicycles imported from China, which became the primary mode of transport. Cubans learned to be endlessly inventive, repairing old machinery with homemade parts and finding ways to make something out of nothing, a skill they called resolver. Faced with economic collapse, Fidel Castro's government was forced to make concessions that would have been unimaginable just a few years earlier. To earn desperately needed foreign currency, the state reluctantly opened the country to international tourism. It also legalized the use of the US dollar, creating a dual currency system that led to a new form of social inequality between those with access to dollars and those without. Small-scale private enterprise, such as family-run restaurants, paladars, and private room rentals, casas particulares, was cautiously permitted. These were pragmatic, capitalist-style reforms born of desperation, a tacit admission that the state-run socialist model alone could not sustain the country. The hardship of the special period led to the most significant signs of public discontent since the start of the revolution. In the summer of 1994, frustration boiled over into a spontaneous protest on Havana's Malecón, an event known as the Maleconazo. In response, Castro temporarily opened the borders, allowing anyone who wanted to leave to do so. Over 35,000 Cubans took to the sea in makeshift rafts and boats, hoping to reach the United States in what became known as the Rafter Crisis. While the regime survived this period of extreme crisis, the special period left deep and lasting scars on Cuban society, forever changing its economy and exposing the vulnerabilities of the revolutionary project. In Cuba, music is the heartbeat of daily life, flowing from open doorways and vintage cars, echoing through plazas. Dance and music are inseparable, a vibrant fusion of African and Spanish roots. Genres like son, rumba, mambo, and salsa tell Cuba's story, joyful, soulful, and alive. From sunlit squares to packed clubs, music invites everyone to connect, to feel, and to dance. Today, new generations blend tradition with modern sounds, keeping Cuba's musical soul ever vibrant. Cuban art is as vibrant, complex, and contradictory as the island itself. For decades, it has been one of the most powerful channels for expression in a society where open dissent is often curtailed. Artists have navigated a delicate balance using metaphor, satire, and surrealism to comment on politics, society, and daily life. The result is a visual culture that is incredibly sophisticated and layered with meaning. A painting that appears to be a simple landscape might, upon closer inspection, contain subtle critiques of isolation or scarcity. This ability to speak in code, to embed messages within an image, has made Cuban art a fascinating and dynamic field, a space for dialogue and reflection in a country of loud political slogans. The revolutionary government has had a complicated relationship with its artists. In the early years, it established a robust system of free art schools, training generations of highly skilled painters, sculptors, and printmakers. Art was seen as a vital part of the revolutionary project, a tool for creating a new culture, and a new socialist man. However, the state also sought to control artistic output. Fidel Castro's famous 1961 speech, Words to the Intellectuals, laid out the official line, "Within the revolution, everything. Against the revolution, nothing." This vague but menacing dictum created an environment of self-censorship, where artists had to constantly test the boundaries of what was permissible. Despite these restrictions, or perhaps because of them, Cuban art has flourished. The special period in the 1990s was a particularly fertile time for artistic creation. As the country faced economic collapse, artists responded with works of incredible ingenuity and power. They used found materials to create sculptures that spoke of scarcity and resilience. They created installations that commented on the rafter crisis and the mass exodus of people from the island. Artists like Tania Bruguera became known internationally for performance pieces that directly challenged state authority, often at great personal risk. This period cemented the role of the artist as a critical observer and a chronicler of the nation's struggles. Today, the Cuban art scene is more visible than ever. The opening of the economy has created a booming art market, with private galleries flourishing in Havana and collectors from around the world flocking to the island. This has brought new opportunities for artists, but also new challenges. Some worry that the art is becoming too commercialized, tailored to the tastes of foreign buyers who prefer colorful, nostalgic images of vintage cars and beautiful ruins. Yet, even within this commercial landscape, many Cuban artists continue to produce challenging, thought-provoking work, ensuring that art remains a vital space for exploring the ever-evolving identity of the island nation. If music is the soul of Cuba, then baseball is its heart. Introduced in the 19th century, baseball quickly became a national obsession and a symbol of Cuban identity. After the revolution, professional sports were abolished, but baseball remained a source of pride and unity. Today, Cubans celebrate their stars abroad while cherishing the game at home. As Cuba entered the 21st century, cautious reforms began to reshape the island. Raúl Castro's government loosened economic controls, allowing small businesses and private enterprise to emerge. A brief thaw with the United States brought hope, but was quickly reversed, and the pandemic struck hard. Once again, Cubans faced uncertainty, as shifting tides tested the limits of change and the resilience of the people. For decades, Cuba was cut off from the digital world, its people isolated, the internet a rare luxury. But in the mid-2010s, public Wi-Fi hotspots began to appear, transforming parks into bustling hubs of connection. Suddenly, Cubans could video chat with family abroad, access global news, and share their own stories online. Social media became a tool for activism and citizen journalism, breaking the state's monopoly on information. This digital awakening fueled the historic July 2021 protests, as thousands organized and voiced their frustrations online. The government cracked down, but the internet had already given Cubans a powerful new voice. The window to the world is open, and it won't easily be closed. Emigration is woven into Cuba's story. Waves of departures with every crisis, each leaving the island changed. Today, a new exodus is underway, with hundreds of thousands risking perilous journeys north, seeking opportunity and hope. Those who leave are often young and skilled, draining Cuba of its future. Families are scattered, classrooms and hospitals left emptier, and the ache of separation is everywhere. Remittances from abroad keep many afloat, but also highlight the deep wounds that drive so many to leave. For those who stay, pride and sorrow mix, a nation defined by resilience, but also by loss. Departure is both a personal heartbreak and a national crisis. The US embargo, El Bloqueo, has shaped Cuba for over 60 years, blamed for shortages and hardship. It restricts trade, investment, and access to essentials, deepening the island's struggles. Yet many argue Cuba's own policies, bureaucracy, lack of economic freedom are equally to blame. The debate is endless, victim of foreign pressure or prisoner of its own system. Most Cubans, especially the young, are tired of excuses and conflict. They want normal relations, real reforms, and a chance to build a better future. The call for change grows louder with each passing year. Despite hardship, hope endures in Cuba, practical, hard-won, and rooted in daily acts of creativity and courage. Young entrepreneurs, artists, and activists push boundaries, determined to shape a new Cuba. The younger generation is impatient for change, connected to the world, and eager for opportunity. Their energy is the island's greatest force for transformation. The path ahead is uncertain, but Cuba's spirit, resolver, remains unbreakable. Through every crisis, the people's warmth, ingenuity, and love for their homeland shine. In that resilience lies the hope for a brighter tomorrow. Cuba defies easy definition, a land of contradictions, beauty, and profound humanity. Its essence is found not in clichés, but in everyday moments, a shared coffee, laughter in the street, music at dusk. The past and present coexist here, shaping a society built on connection and creativity. History's weight is felt everywhere, yet so is the promise of change. Above all, it's the Cuban people, their resilience, humor, and love that make the island unforgettable. Their daily acts of resolver are heroic, their spirit indomitable. To know Cuba is to be changed by it. It is not just a destination, but a profound human experience. Cuba is a land of living lessons, where resilience, paradox, and culture thrive amid hardship. The island challenges our ideas of freedom, wealth, and happiness, showing that a rich social life can flourish even in scarcity. Above all, Cuba teaches us that culture is not a luxury, but the soul of a people, a vibrant proof of life itself. Today, Cuba stands at a crossroads. The island is caught between its socialist past and the pressures of a globalized world. A new generation of leaders faces a more connected, informed, and impatient citizenry. The digital revolution is breaking barriers, empowering Cubans to shape their own future. The question is not if change will come, but how, and how quickly it will unfold. Cuba is a land of contrasts, joy and struggle, resilience and fragility. Its true wealth lies in the unbreakable spirit of its people, the rhythm of daily life, and the laughter that echoes across the Malecón at sunset. The enduring beat of the Cuban heart is found in community, creativity, and hope, reminding us what truly matters. Cuba is more than a place, it's a feeling that stays with you forever.